So once we got our renders done, we can jump into the image context, and there you'll find a composite network. If you don't, then you can just get one here. Okay, dive inside and then drop a file, and then we can use this to read in the renders. So we're going to our hip and then find the class renders that we made. Beauty pass, I'll grab that. So I've got 75 to 85, as I said, just for demonstration. So let me grab them, and I'll type those values in here, 75 to 85. There we go. And then go into my composite viewer, and there we go. We can see the renders, and we can watch that through. There we go. All looks fine. I can't see any mistakes. Great. And then let's bring in the rest of them. So another file. I think that will, yeah, we'll pick up the same route there. So get the beauty, we'll get the light post. Look at that, perfect. And I'll just alt click and drag to copy it. That will make a double screen, but that's okay. To grab the shadows as well. Which, if we go back to the first frame, how do I do this? I think it was like this, there we go. And then just press A, and you'll see the alpha, that's the shadow information there, okay? And then one more, we actually need the background. I'm gonna drop these on this side, the shadow here, and then another one for the background, okay? So here, go into that text folder. Oh, it's annoying when it does that. There we go. So into my hip, and then find that text folder. There we go. And then this capture. PNG, grab that. Okay, and you'll see the resolution is a bit different, but I think if we set this to our project resolution, that might, let's see. There we go. So that copies the resolution we brought in, everything else at. Okay. So now we want to, first of all, bring the shadows in. Okay, we need to lay those shadows over this. So I'm going to use a layer and drop my, you can see that says background layer, my capture in first, and then the shadows over the top, and there you can see, simple as that. We've got our shadows. The shadows are a bit sharp for my liking, so I'm just going to blur them a little. Okay, just drop a blur in there, and I'm going to push it up to 5. I think, what's happened there? There we go. Okay, so you can see the effect that it's having there. Cool, and I'm just going to drop a color correct on this background layer as well. Just to drop the, master the gamma a little bit. Okay, just to bring out those colors a bit more. You can see the difference there. Okay, middle click in there, by the way, in case you don't know. Middle click, and then you get this kind of handy ladder thing. It just makes making quick corrections easier. Great. So then we'll take another layer. So the layer, you know, is kind of what you're actually compositing with, putting one thing over another. And we'll drop the car in. So this will now be our background layer, and the car will be our foreground layer over the top. And there we have it. Okay, the car is in our scene, sat in nicely. And I'm gonna, you can again take a color correct. We could, you know, be splitting this up into separate components, but I don't think that's necessary to go into that much detail. So I'm going to, looking at the kind of shadows here, these parts, I'm going to raise the gamma a tiny bit. Okay, just brighten it up. So I feel like that sits it into the scene a bit better. Okay, and the midtones as well I wanted to raise. So the gamma here, I'm going to raise that up 1. So if you notice these parts getting brighter, just overall gets a bit brighter. Okay, I just feel that it sits in the image a bit better. Great. And then another thing I'd like to use, I just like to blur the edges a little bit. So we got this edge blur. Okay, and let's visualize that down here. I'm going to bring the size down a little bit. Let's see if we can see the difference. It's just a really minuscule kind of effect. Maybe I'll push it up a bit more. Push it to 3. There we go. Just how, again, another thing to help it kind of sit into the background. Just soften up those hard edges a bit. Great. And then what else? We need the pole as well, this light pole. So another layer. Drop that in there. And this on the side. There we have our lovely pole. I'm going to drop that same edge blur there as well, actually, because that looked a bit too harsh to me. Okay, again, soften those edges a bit. And I'd like a color correct on this as well. So color correct. There we go. Just line it up. And I'm just going to brighten this up a little in the shadows. Go. Okay. It's coming together. Another thing I like to do, just personal preference once I'm done, is excuse me, is to add some grain over the top. Okay, so you can see what that's doing is adding, obviously that's over the top, it's too much, but you know, I just like the way it uniformly applies it over the top of everything and gives it that, you know, camera look, as if it's come out of a you know, it's been filmed. So I'm going to drop the amplitude way down, 0.75, so it's barely even noticeable, right? But it will have, I'll add a bit of noise, and then I'm also going to put a $F into the noise seed, so that is changing every frame. Add a bit of movement, especially because the background is static as well. If we zoom in, if I maybe push this back up to 1 so we can see it better, you can see per frame. This, oh, if it doesn't skip, there we go. You can see it changing per frame now. Okay, so I'll add a bit of movement to our final comp. There we go. Another kind of cool thing you can add with Redshift, I found, is this Redshift post effects. Connect that up, and that's just some nice little things in here. So we can just turn on this enable photographic exposure, which adds a bit of brightness to our scene. And then another thing I liked was in the post effects here, this bloom adds a bit of brightness, so finds the brightest points of your image and you know, kind of layers over, you know, like a sense of, we get a sense of light sitting over the top of our renders as well, which is quite nice. If I force it, if I bring this down, you can see the kind of effect. Okay, but obviously I don't want it so strong. Something like that is probably good. Bring the intensity down a bit. Okay, maybe a bit more, maybe to 3. we go. Just something to kind of, again, unify everything together. Obviously, you can play around with these, all of these values, add more in, you know, whatever you like. And then to get your final, not ROP network, sorry, to get your final comp out, go ROP file output, connect that up. And then in here, yeah, you're going to want to, yeah, I've got only a few frames here, but yeah, I think we said 48 to 140 for the full thing. And then your root. So again, you know, class comp maybe, and then you might want your version. So version 1 or 2, whatever you're on, comp dot, and then your frame numbers again, frame padding, sorry, $F4 with whatever, you know, I'd probably render out an EXR myself, but you know, you could render out PNGs or JPEGs or TIFFs, whatever you like from here, and then just click render and you're good to go.